Here to talk a little bit about how we work with clients and some success stories and case studies we have of building the AI strategy. Thought processes, if I had to take a show of hands of how many people have been tasked with currently working on, having worked on some kind of AI strategy within their organization. So I'm guessing everyone's kind of been impacted by it in some way, shape, or form. That's great. I don't know why you'd be here if you weren't. And it really means that we're all trying to kind of solve the same problem, figure it out together. But what we see often, whether it's in boardrooms, strategy meetings, kickoffs, etc., is that a lot of these AI initiatives kind of start from a place that isn't always really grounded in proper things. And that's kind of what we're working through. We see a lot of this is geared towards there's this thing out here, we know people are utilizing it, we're here. If we don't use it, it's going to miss out on something, we're going to be left behind in the dark ages. We see that kind of everywhere. But the next logical question becomes, okay, so now what? From there, kind of see people along different parts of the journey, standard little hype cycle, central to kind of what we're talking about. And where we see this roller coaster kind of kick in, you see the peaks, inflated expectations, you see the crash, the truffle, disillusionment, and then hopefully you can kind of get on the other side. Really what we try to work through with our teams internally and our clients is how do we kind of shortfall that and really streamline in there so you get maximized value, and how can it actually help us improve things appropriately.
Excuse me, can you adjust your microphone up?
Yeah. Is this better?
Yes.
I'll just stand a little bit. All right. Thank you. Yeah, without that strategy focus, often it'll kind of feel like it's just another AI first kind of talk. Very little measurable success, very little kind of on the shelf. It's kind of a shiny new thing, but fairly shallow and what we expect. We believe the problem isn't that AI doesn't work, it's the problem is how we decide to approach it. And we want to really try to change how people look at AI. From a product perspective, what that really means is we look at this as an IT project sometimes, it kind of gets punted over to IT to solve the security, accessibility, the IP, any of those kind of things. Yes, there's a lot of technical aspects to any kind of technological advancement like AI, but really what we want to do to solve problems is to kind of work from a problem-first mentality, is central to a product mindset, and kind of start there. We look at AI as the chainsaw and try to apply it to all of our items. Obviously, we look one way, rather than starting with the problem and kind of communicating it from there. So we want to try to flip the script on this. Instead of moving from an AI first, start with a problem first approach, from chasing technology to clarifying purpose and improving that value. Because when we anchor AI into business problems with a clear why behind it, we stop chasing the hype, start building meaningful, measurable outcomes. So from our side, we all agree the goal isn't just to do AI, but to solve something valuable with it. The natural question becomes, how do we actually get there? Problem first sounds simple, but we're going to try to walk through real-life examples of what that looks like, how do we incorporate it into our lives, and go from there. Often AI discussions will start with a technology demo, someone saying we use ChatGPT for this, or we should automate this, or move in this direction. But as a product thinker, we try to flip that script. Start by asking what are the business problems you're trying to solve, who experiences this pain, how often, what are the key personas, what is the value proposition here, and what is the impact if we fix this? Dollars, hours, satisfaction, change management, people's lives, those kind of things. In general, AI should never be a starting point. It should be an enabler that allows us to better understand the problem. With that, there's a few things that we try to incorporate into what we do. iterative approaches allow us to fail fast. One of the greatest aspects of AI is that you can now iterate at speeds much faster than you ever could before. So we often utilize an AI kind of OODA loop approach to a lot of things we do. We also move forward with expectation settings. A lot of times the outcome of what you expect from an AI project may be a little ambiguous, or you really haven't tested the data, or you really don't know how accurate you can kind of do. So being able to level set expectations from the get is really important. Making sure that the data that you're presenting is provided with a purpose. And then doing all of this with a framework for modernization of your organization. At a high level, what this means is, I like to call it being bilingual, bilingual, so it's the business and the information kind of combining together and being able to speak both sides of that language. So a lot of times this will get punted over into a technical implementation and slowly kind of work through that silo. That's great, it's necessary, part of the strategy, but missing the other side, which we'll focus a little bit more on today, is a key aspect of what we think provides a higher degree of success, a higher degree of cultural change, and a higher degree of buy-in from the business. I'm going to have Zach kind of talk through one of those case studies.
Sure. Can everybody hear me? Good. All right, cool. So, like John said, we're going to talk about one main use case, talk through a few other use cases of some of the things we've done with our clients, implementing AI into their business processes and how we took a product mindset to that. So we're really trying to follow that left side of the Venn diagram there, focusing on the business problem rather than the technical, and saying, hey, this AI solution or this ML solution or this LLM should fix the problems that they have. So we really took this from a 5-step approach. Understanding the business needs, defining differentiated value, aligning on those strategic goals, ensuring that stakeholders have their voice and making sure that the outcomes benefit them, and then crafting a compelling narrative so that way you can implement that change, implement that product, implement AI or whatever solution you decide to bring in across the business. So the use case to talk about here is we had a client. They are a national public transportation company. They operate public buses, rail lines, ferries, a number of different types of transportation. And they came to us with a problem. They had dispatchers that would come into their yard and they would see 10 drivers just sitting there that weren't scheduled, that were on standby, that were collecting a paycheck because people did call it off or some of those different things. And so they had a real problem on their hands where they were paying people to be on standby. If they had too many people on standby, or too less of people on standby, then they were paying people for overtime. So they really couldn't predict when people were going to call off. You can kind of predict around holidays or over the summer that people are going to call off, or people are not going to show up because of July 4th or Christmas time or any of those things. But what if you could predict and understand that I'm going to have a huge amount of call-offs at all of my locations the Monday after the Super Bowl, right? Or could I predict serial call-off behavior, meaning, John takes off every Friday over the course of the summer. If I can understand that and predict that, then I can kind of operate, put together schedules that are best for my employees, but ultimately for my customers. And then in the same breath, you can also understand the average length of somebody in the role. In this industry, a lot of times they're trying to onboard operators. Those operators get onboarded, they work for a few weeks, maybe a month or so, and then they just don't show up out of nowhere. So if you can kind of understand that helps the HR team, the teams on site, to actually be able to be proactive in some of the hiring and some of those things. And really the biggest bottom line for them, especially, other than cost, is their consumers. If you ever taken a public bus, you expect that public bus is going to be there that scheduled day and that next day. If drivers aren't showing up, the company has a real big problem on their hands. So with that being said, we set out, we conducted some stakeholder interviews really across the entire company, all the way from C-level, to understand some of the bottom line financial impacts to it, but then all the way down to the cost center, the people actually operating within the locations and providing services to the customer, and try to validate that use case. So could we have some potential savings if fewer drivers are on standby? Could we have, what is the cost of not having enough standby drivers? So if I'm not able to staff appropriately, am I not able to pick up a consumer, or am I not able to go through a scheduled route because someone showed off or didn't show up, but I didn't have any standby drivers? Same thing on the other side. If I'm paying too many people overtime, is that really a problem and enough to cover? So we kind of tried to find that balance, find those pain points, and go through that process. And one thing you'll notice here, and I'm actually about to get into it, is we haven't talked about the solution yet to figure that out. We've tried to stay in that problem space, and ultimately we decided on an AI solution, but we didn't immediately just say, hey, we should use some Gen AI solution for this, or we should use some ML model for this, or should we go and look at the Excels that they're capturing a lot of this data in and try and maybe come up with some calculations and things to give them some information. Ultimately, we weighed some of those cost of value options as well. We could use Gen AI, but that may be a super expensive tool that we'd have to implement within their processes and within their business, or we could go with a super cheap option and just do some things through Excel. Ultimately, we landed on using an ML model with an absentee index. It's actually called the Bradford Index. And what that does is we married all that together, allowing us to help try and predict when people are going to call off, giving them those the people at the locations and all the way up to the operations level and corporate, and more information on predicting people calling off. So, and so what we did then, we went and talked to those stakeholders, we came up with a solution, but we also then had to align on those strategic goals. And so we wanted to identify some success metrics, some information that would be beneficial to people using the outputs of what that ML model is providing. And then we basically came up with a dashboard that uses this ML model to be able to show this information across the board, which allowed for key insights at the location so they can be proactive in their hiring. So that way, the next time that dispatcher showed up on a Monday at their yard, they didn't have 10 people on standby. They may have had 2 or 3 people because they realized, hey, everyone should, based on what I'm seeing in the information, people should be here at work. Now, maybe they might have done that on the Monday after the Super Bowl. They might have had more people on standby because that model, that information, that data showed them, hey, I need some more people here to kind of support potential call-offs from that
I think
perspective.
this is a key step to kind of ensure there's alignment of expectations. A lot of times, as we talk about us as individuals or organizations going through a hype cycle, every individual person is going to be somewhere else on that hype cycle. So as you're going through this step and the next step are critical aspects of making sure that there's a basic understanding of what we expect to accomplish at each of these stages to kind of help prove out and gain trust throughout the process. That lack of transparency across this is detrimental to the overall success of the program. What we're really trying to do with steps 3 and steps 4 are incorporating a culture change, change management change to kind of get buy-in of, you can trust kind of what's coming. It's not going to be, everything's on autopilot, but what should we expect to kind of get with each of these things? What are we trying to prove out to eventually get to the strategic goals aligned?
And then along those same lines, like I was saying in step 4, is couldn't necessarily build this in a vacuum. We couldn't just say, hey, this one location is having this problem, and just fix it for that one location, or this one area of the business is having this problem. We tried to ensure that the solution didn't just satisfy one group or one stakeholder or some of those things. We tried to come at it with a holistic view, again, that problem view. And so we had investments, not necessarily financial investments. I mean, they did pay us to do the project, but finance, right? So they were interested in the bottom line. How can I not have to pay 10 to 15 standby drivers or people from overtime? That impacts the bottom line, where I don't have to necessarily pay out people that aren't driving and providing services. from an HR perspective, allows proactive hiring, proactive and going out and interviewing, onboarding new operators, just because I know that potentially in the first 3 months or so, people might just leave and never come back. From an operations perspective, most importantly for their customers, it provided more efficiencies. Again, not having too many people show up, not having to pay people that aren't actually working and operating buses. But then it also made sure that in the public transit industry, there's a published schedule of what's going to, where that route's going to go that next day. It allowed them to actually create more efficient schedules as well, knowing that, hey, I'm going to have people to operate these buses. And same thing at the location level, all the way down to that level, the people at the locations, the general managers, the dispatchers were equally prepared with the key insights that they had. And then IT, it really provided them a win to show that technology can kind of help solve a business problem, and then allowed them to implement that throughout and try and push that change management all the way out throughout the business. So, then the last piece is crafting a compelling narrative. So, as long as you have these stakeholders and these people that are invested and the people that kind of make that process and that problem personal, they're really championing that effort that you just built out and allows for a better implementation of change. We kind of talked about it, everybody raised their hand when we said we're trying to do some AI. AI, like some people are like, I don't want to necessarily use this tool. If you have people around and bought into what we are trying to bring to the business, and trying to solve the problem, it makes that change management, makes that implementation a little bit easier. And then also it builds trust. If you can predict that, I use that Monday after school example, if you can predict that 20 people at that location are going to show up that day, you build a little bit more trust because the data is showing you that that's the case. And so again, that creates that compelling narrative where you also have people within the business championing that effort with you. So, just a little bit of statistics, at least on this case study as well. So we built a number of reports, a number of different things that we did. One example is that we built for them was around yard time. They were trying to track the information about when a operator started their day to finally when they got to the bus to actually go out and make money and do some of those things. But across all of the things we provided them, this was the #1 report that they used, all the way down from the cost center level, all the way up to the C-suite and some of the decisions that they're making there as well. And then again, the trust in the AI grew when we were able to predict, the people that just started 3 months ago, a group of those people may not show up again, or they're going to collect that last paycheck and never come back from that perspective. And then what we didn't do there is we didn't necessarily just stop and say, hey, this works, this is awesome, this is the greatest thing since sliced bread. We took that feedback, we tried to implement it, we tried to iterate on it, we tried to train the model a little bit more, try to provide even down to the day inputs, when people were going to take vacations, some of those things as well. So we continued to iterate on it, treated it like a product instead of just the tool that does something. And because of that, great success. This was supposed to be a Borat great success thing, but our designer, we changed it to this. We thought that was a little bit more fitting, but for John and I, we thought it was funny. So, like I said there at the end, whenever you're implementing something, especially around AI, any products, anything that you're doing for your clients, for your internal, for your external stakeholders, continue to try and implement the flywheel effect. As people start to use it, you should hopefully get more feedback and ways to improve it, and then ultimately that will improve a better AI product. Measure the use cases, measure some of the information that you're getting out of it. Don't forget to celebrate the wins. Don't just put your head down and continue to work on it, but celebrate those wins. But then at that point, because it's successful, how can we continue to iterate on it, continue to make it better, make it more efficient for the business as well, and follow the UDA as well. So, because we were successful in doing that for that client, these are a few other examples that we've done where we've been able to rinse and repeat that process, that 5-step process. One is actually an internal product that we built at Co-Strategics for detecting anomalies in your data quality. So we've used an ML model to help detect information coming through a data cloud or a process where you can get notifications on data cloud issues that you can be able to act on and related to quality. We've done some fuzzy brand matching for a large retail grocery store, as well as some other brands as well. And then the same large grocery store, retail store, we did some product image flagging with that, using an ML model as well to identify pictures that are coming through on their products and making sure that the pictures that are coming through that are going out to the marketplace are the correct pictures, and they're flagging and looking at that information so some random picture that somebody sends into the marketplace doesn't just show up on the website. So we've done a number of these different projects, and they've all worked again because we've kind of followed that problem, not necessarily just using that ML model or that LLM or that Gen AI tool just as the tool itself, but really focusing on the problem and trying to drive that business value. So.
Yeah, I think in all of these examples, the key point that I want to kind of drive home in this is it's not just an AI solution, it's an AI with a human kind of actually still acting as the advisor. And a lot of this transition that we're working with our clients on is really trying to understand how they can best position themselves as advisors with this new technology and kind of get out ahead in the absence of leadership, in the absence of those kinds of things. I think I gave a speech on data clouds maybe 7 years ago, and it was, if you don't have an accessible data strategy, you're going to end up with a situation where you have all of these disparate, incorrect, validated, or invalidated data sources in Excel. You have the Excel database that comes through. And I think AI is very similar. If we don't get out ahead and have a strategic understanding of how we can utilize them within our organizations or within the products we give to our customers, we're going to end up with similar kinds of situations. So what does this mean? Twice. Obviously, there's always the concern of AI is going to take my job. I'm confident that it's going to be true to some aspects of the job market and those kind of things. What I try to strive to is this quote, which is, I think, a little bit more practical, what we can kind of do about it, which is AI is not going to necessarily take your job, but the person who knows AI is. So it's our job to kind of empower ourselves to be more effective and more efficient for our coworkers and for our clients, to be able to do more with less from that perspective. So the whole idea of this is AI as a tool. The disruption is what you can do with it, or what you choose to do with it. So it's not going to be running in autopilot mode. It's always a human kind of still responsible for that. I think you see that. I really like Microsoft's branding, which is probably the first time I've ever said that. But it's a co-pilot, it's not a pilot. And I think just taking that to heart is really important for how you think about what you do with AI personally, professionally, or how you integrate AI into products, which is one of the things we do. The world is all full of poor implementations. Lawyers use ChatGPT to make up case studies and law cases. Zillow had to pull back after millions of dollars worth of losses for letting AI go out a little bit too far in buying and selling assets without fully taking into consideration market volatility. You'll find those examples where you're not really fully centered on who you're actually doing the solution for and what the value is that they're trying to get out of it. From my side, I always really like this diagram. I've used it a few times, where AI kind of fits, where AI doesn't fit as well. We don't really want to necessarily making fully decisions, but from a standpoint of where there's order in our lives and there's chaos in our lives, and how much time we spend sitting on the bottom rungs of that kind of human experience of the work that we do, how do we find ways to flip our work pyramid? If I can find opportunities across my day-to-day or across users and clients day-to-day to be able to make it so that they're not sitting there, triaging how many standby people may show up today, or how many people are going to call off, or how many routes, for a school bus, are going to be impacted by, the Monday after the Super Bowl hangover, and I can allow some insights to kind of predict things more effectively for me. I'm now not in firefight mode, and now I can do these kind of things. I still need to be there. Somebody still needs to drive the bus and do those kind of things, but now I can be a little bit more proactive and predictive about what's coming from some of those things. I'm still solving and discovering the next problem. Just kind of wrap up on this, leave some time for questions. 4 kind of key takeaways we wanted to make sure we illuminated with this. We're on the product side. Zach's title has solutions in it, but all solutions come from problems, and we're not centered on the problem, really understanding that every AI initiative is still just a business and a user problem initiative. Is clear. From there, we can actually measure and have transparent conversations between business and IT of what's realistic. One of the things Go Strategics works on is proving ground exercise, where we work with clients and kind of initiate POCs for AI initiatives, and a number of them come out, and there's as our CRO likes to say, the duck don't hunt. Whatever. Something doesn't hunt. The whole idea behind it is there's not enough there. You're not going to be able to get predictive enough. The data's not there. We need some quality and those kind of things. But laying out kind of what realistic possibilities are there is essential for that. If we treat AI like a product and we're able to incorporate those things, we end up with a lot less shallow implementations just to check the AI first box. And we actually can solve realistic problems practically for our customers. And do so in a way where we're kind of championing it. You don't want people sitting in their silos, utilizing it on their fringes. Bringing it within the organization, bringing it into a centered spot, allow it to be a part of the conversation. The more you do that, I think it empowers your teams to have a centralized view of that, in addition to making sure that you're getting the most out of the real human power that you're getting out of all this.
Take this last slide. This is just a little bit about Go Strategics. Our VP of Sales, I think that's your title, Andy, will love this, and we're just kind of throwing our sales side out here. But so what we do at Go Strategics, and we've talked a little bit about it from the case study examples. We're a strategy-led digital and data services organization. So we provide AI strategy solutions that we talked a little bit about today, data and insights, product development, and platform modernization. You'll see there some of the companies that we work with, really from smaller companies all the way to larger companies, especially in the Cincinnati, Dayton, and Northern Kentucky areas. And John and I were talking about this earlier, but we also won the best places to work in the last, I think 7 years. I've been here for 4 years. So if anybody's interested, come talk to us. We're going to be the best place to work with you as well.